So guys, in this video we're going to get into, should you have a more roll release going through the golf ball? And if so, how do you make that move work? Because we see a lot of players, let's say in the 90s and early 2000s, had that move where they had a big release movement going through there. Very much was popular golf instruction back in the day. As you know, if you've watched a lot of my channel, I don't necessarily teach that move all too much because of the inconsistency of it, but you can make it work. And well, really, once we know how you make it work, is it worth the time to be able to do that? Okay, so roll release, as we know, that was very classic style, squaring up the club face, roll releasing it through there. It's how you square the face up. A lot of times you go for a lesson with your PJ Pro, you'll be slicing it, and what would he say? Roll your wrist a little bit more, release that club a little bit better. Bit of a BS-y bit of advice, in my opinion, that is, but you can make that move work. So how do you make that move work? First and foremost, we know, okay, modern golf swing sense. What is a square club face? A square club face is matching your spine angle. So you can have it matching your spine angle, you can have it a little bit open, you can have it a little bit closed, preferably more around the open region to where a square matching your spine angle is here. So it's a little bit of a spectrum. So that will encourage, of course, more of a body rotational release because the club face is going to stay square to the arc if it's square approaching. Okay, so to roll release it, classic wrist hand release, can't be having that square club face. We need the club face open to be able to do that. We need that toe pointing up towards the sky to make that work. So this used to be square back when this was taught. This is what we believed to be a square club face back then. So from there, if you do the body rotational release, what's going to happen? Boom, the club face is going to be open, you're going to hit it miles out to the right. So that's where you would need to release the club going through the ball to square it up. Now, okay, so you'd need to have a more open club face to do so. That's one thing. Two, you would need great rhythm. So that's a trait we see with a lot of the guys back in the day, don't we? We saw them have really good, smooth rhythm. Think of Ernie Els, think of a Fred Couples, for example. How silky smooth their rhythm was to make that move work, because that essentially is what it did. It made the move work quite nicely, swinging in great rhythm. Very different from now, where you see guys literally just rip the hell out of the golf ball, move and viciously move at it. So good rhythm just gives you more time to be able to square this up. Better the rhythm is, the better you'll be able to do that movement. So, okay, you need good rhythm alongside with that. And three, what you really need also, you need quite a quiet body going through the impact area. You can't have too much movement with your body. Because like we said, if you've got a more dominant movement of your body, which is quite a lot of players naturally have this more body orientated move, again, you're going to be maintaining club face angle going through the golf ball. You're probably one of those golfers who would slice it a little bit more often. So you can't have that body turn all too much going through that golf ball because you'll keep that club face a little bit too much open. So you'd have to stall and you would have to extend that trail arm going through there. You'd stall, then why you'd have to extend that trail arm is because as that body stalls and slows down, the upper body will start to move up, pelvis will start to move a little bit forward, and then you would have to extend that trail arm to get back towards the golf ball, which would aid the releasing movement. It's a lot of stuff though, isn't it? It's a lot of stuff you have to do. So you'd essentially have to come out your posture a little bit to do it optimally and do it properly. As you can see there, guys, you can make it work, but it's very, what I would call, just tricky. It's very tricky, isn't it? You have to do a lot of stuff. You have to hit a lot of balls. That is how players back in the day made this work. They hit a tremendous amount of balls. They did all those traits. Probably the one they probably did the least was coming out of their posture a little bit. A lot of them still stayed in their posture whilst doing it, which is very impressive. But they hit a tremendous amount of balls. Don't quite get guys practice on the driving range hitting balls as much as they used to back then. Now golfers, when they're practicing top tour players, they play a lot more than they actually practice because they've got moves in their golf swing that will be a little bit more consistent and rely a little bit less on timing. So, okay, that's where the rhythm of obviously, it's one of the reasons why we see such a faster rhythm these days, because they don't need to rely as much on timing. Slower rhythm means you'll be able to time better. So if you're someone who's been trying to get the body release swing for a long time and you can't do it, this is definitely an option, absolutely. But you will be playing sporadically. It's just going to happen. You're not going to have a time where you're going to master it. It's just not the case. You're not going to have consistent golf throughout the season. You might have patches of good golf and you might have patches of golf where you feel like you want to sell your clubs. generally is going to happen. So, okay, if we want to have the more body rotation release, we need to almost do a few opposite things to what we just heard. So we need to have, of course, like we said, club face needs to be more square to the arc. So normally that's around your spine angle. Like I said, you can have a little bit of wiggle room one way or the other. We just don't want it toe up. So from there, rhythm doesn't matter massively with it. It does help a little bit, helps with other elements of the golf swing. But generally, if you try to turn harder through the golf ball, you're going to have a better release pattern in the passive sense. Your club face isn't going to have any real movement to it. It's going to stay nice and square to the arc as you move through. So that's one area from there, because you need to get yourself and continuing to turn hard through the impact area. And of course, number 3, just like we said with the roll release, how coming out of your posture, extend that trail arm helps a little bit for it, of course. Doesn't with body release, can't be doing that because it's going to be a bad time. So that's where you need to learn to stay in posture. There's a lot of things to be able to do that successfully. So staying in your posture, staying down there, getting yourself open, having a nice bent right arm really, really helps. It can straighten post impact if you want it to, but at the point of impact, we would like it to be fairly straight, fairly bent, sorry. So there's a few things you have to do. I've got plenty and plenty of videos on my channel. I've got whole video courses on that topic of how to get more of a freely rotating golf swing, which is a link in the description on the app version of Skillist. So, of course, there is more than one way to swing the golf club. I talk a lot about rotational golf swings. Yes, more modern golf swings, we could say. But there is other ways to do it. I wouldn't teach this. You know, I was humming and hawing with making a YouTube video about it, but I thought it'd be an interesting one for you guys to watch as well, since I usually talk about one way of doing it. So, of course, I would always go through the consistent way, but if you want to go that way, you certainly can. So, if you enjoyed this video, click that like button if you want more golf instruction, just like this. Hit the subscribe button, hit the bell button too, to be notified every time I put out a video.